What's up, everybody? Victor Pena here with OmniPrint International, here in the studio with another session of Creators One-on-One. Today, I'm super excited to have my boy Austin here that came to visit us, and we're gonna talk about three main things, all right? We're gonna talk about how to set up business credit for 0%, how to fix your personal, all right, and how to take that and invest it in your business, in your education, and your mindset, all right? So we're gonna jump right into it right now. We're gonna jump right in. I have some questions. So first off, if you could just kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Austin, what you do, and just to kind of give people some context on how big of a badass that you are.
I love that, man. You're too nice to me. So I used to work at Microsoft as a consultant. So I was doing some business strategy consulting from them. And at a certain point in my life, I realized I'm like, you know, this is cool, this is great, but I really want to achieve more with my life and I want to do more. This isn't what I'm really passionate about. And so I started looking for ways on how I could make that happen. And one of those ways I realized is creating some sort of investment cash flow or passive income that could support my lifestyle and then allow me to spend the rest of my time doing whatever I want. And so there's a few things that you need in order to create passive income. Number one is access to some sort of capital. So whether you have cash on hand, maybe you have investors backing you, or maybe it's just business credit. And then you need access to investment opportunities. So there's a lot of things out there, and I've tried a lot of them, and I realized that, hey, a certain percentage of these, maybe 30 or 40% of investments just don't work out. And so I was on a mission to find the ones that do work out so I could create a reliable, consistent performance from my portfolio and also help others do the same. So now I run a large coaching program and I teach people how to get access to investor capital, so finding investors who are willing to back your deals, and then also getting access to these investment opportunities. Because if I've already gone through the process of testing them out, why would anybody else want to go through that process where they lose a certain percentage of investments? You only want to focus on the winners. So if I can tell you which ones worked for me, that usually ends up working out well.
Ooh, that's awesome. So you already pre-lost for them so that they could win and they don't have to
pre-lost. That's exactly
This guy already figured out all the investments that don't work so that he doesn't pass them to you.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's awesome. So I got a first question. So
yeah.
Top entrepreneur of 2022. So how'd you score that?
They found me through my Instagram. And I think part of that is I've really invested a lot of time and effort to grow my social media presence and just creating content that would relate to people and would help them grow their investment portfolios. And I think that's really what made them realize, like, hey, maybe we should nominate this guy for a potential award in the entrepreneurial space for what he's doing specifically in passive income and all that I'm doing in that.
Dude, I love that. So guys, if you're not on social media and building that out and putting out there what you're doing, remember all these free eyeballs and all those opportunities, right? We're going to talk about business credit and all that stuff. But the reality is, if nobody knows you, if your stuff's on private, you're not posting, you're not showing people your expertise on how you're helping others win, all these other strategies make it like it's super difficult if you're not out there already publishing what you do and the wins that you're getting for others, all right? So what does somebody need to do to get business credit when they got nothing set up?
Yeah, so, you know, in my investment career, I found that there's so many different ways to get funded. And so whether that's through business credit or through an investor or through maybe even like a business funding program, there's grants out there that will give you funding. Now, we'll talk specifically about business credit, but there's so many different ways to do it, and I've tried all of them because that was an issue that I had early on. I was still fairly young when I started investing, and I had to be super creative with how I did it. And the way that I did it personally was I used personal credit. So I went out and I got personal credit cards and I used that to start these projects that I'm working on. And so for me, that was actually a terrible move because it hurt my personal credit. And my credit score was like trash for the longest time because I had utilized all of this credit. And so like going through my mind, I'm like, man, like, did I just ruin my entire credit reputation or credit worthiness to the bank for the rest of my life. I wasn't really sure what's going to happen. Thankfully, the investments that I made worked out and I was able to pay those off and it improved. But I found a better way to do it since then. So I've worked with many professionals in this area on how I can establish business credit. And so it's actually very simple. Even if you don't have anything in place currently, you basically can create an LLC and use income projections based on what you believe that LLC is going to make to establish some sort of business credit profile with the bank. And of course, they're going to still pull your personal credit. They want to see what you've done previously. But it's really not that hard to access hundreds of thousands of dollars in 0% interest business credit to use for whatever you need it to use for. So if you need to use it for establishing your business or buying new equipment or marketing or whatever it is, you can use that new business credit to do that and not even pay interest on it. It's like free money. So why wouldn't you want to use it?
Dude, I love that. So a few takeaways, guys, on there. When you're talking about like getting business credit, remember that you don't want to have a trashed personal credit profile.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless, you don't want to have that, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to have that even when you're asking for business credit, because they're, maybe they're not giving you personally to your social that credit, but they're gonna check it, right? So make sure you have access to programs, and in fact, like we'll link some of Austin's stuff right here so you guys can check it out. The reality is get the education, right? Get the education on how to do it. We're saying, hey, have good credit, but what if you have bad credit, right? What can somebody do if they have bad credit? And would that be like the baseline thing that they need to start with?
Yeah, definitely. I would say making sure your own personal credit is in good shape before applying for business credit, it's going to make a massive, massive difference. And so I have many clients that enter my program and they maybe want a little bit of extra capital to invest into the different things we invest in. And so what they do is they start working on their personal credit. And there's many credit cleaning companies out there. They're not all great, but I've kind of found a few that I like working with, and I've established relationships with them where they're able to improve our own personal credit scores. So credit cleaning, establishing maybe some sort of authorized user accounts, just different strategies that we use to improve our personal credit. Once it's above like a 700, 720, it's really, really easy to get approved. And so the truth is that you can get approved with a lower credit score, but you're probably going to get a lot more credit if you just are above that 720 mark. So that's kind of like a number that we shoot for, to be above 720. Once you're above 720, it's really easy. Then it's just a matter of working with relationship managers, establishing partnerships with certain banks and showing them your credit worthiness, and then getting business credit and obviously continuing that relationship. So you want to be on time with your payments. You want to make sure that you're servicing that debt, and they're more than willing to increase it. So,
dude, a couple of things there, guys. So look, we're not like this is not a credit expert on repair, right? That's not what we're doing. You want to make sure that your personal credit's on point. And you have to be super careful because there's a lot of shadiness when it comes to credit repair online everywhere. All right. So make sure that whoever you work with is doing it legit and is taking care of you when it comes to like, hey, you know what? This stuff is old. Let's get rid of it. Really, really do that properly, because you can get into some issues if there's so many scams out there. Right. So all the stuff that we post on here is obviously informational. You got to do your research and make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. We're posting Austin's stuff, down in the comments so that you can check it out. All right.
One other thing that has helped me tremendously in my credit journey is just having the right mentor. And so working with the people that I work with, it really, really sped up a lot of things for me. So instead of me having to figure out, hey, which bank should I apply for first? What about like which card is better? Which one's going to get me points and which one's going to make me more money? Having a mentor to guide you through that step by step to make sure that you're applying correctly makes a world of a difference.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah. I'm a recovering engineer, right? I always try to do stuff myself. I say recovering because now I'm taking shortcuts and having mentors that I've already done it. I've already done like great things. and then just modeling what they're done. Like literally, you're copying it, and they're like, "Hey, here, copy my stuff." It's like, dude, it's the biggest unlock. All right, so, all right, so we got to fix or have good credit, fix our credit, and then from there, like, what's the next step after I do that?
So I find the most helpful thing once you've fixed your own personal credit is to decide, hey, do I have an existing LLC that I'm going to use for this? Do I need to start a new one? And so making that decision also, again, it's something that you decide with a mentor or somebody that's experienced that can kind of guide you in the right direction with that. And from there, it's establishing that first relationship with the bank. So for example, if I want to apply for Chase business credit, I'm first going to go to Chase and I'm just going to open a business checking account, because I don't want to be that random dude that just walked in the Chase and he's like, hey, I need $100,000 in credit. They're like, who are you? You know? So you want to show them, they're like, no, I'm serious. Like, I want to build a business relationship with you guys. I'm not just here for a credit card, even though you kind of are, but you go in there and you want to start building some other things, right? You want to open a checking account, maybe put in some money into that account, 5K, 10K, 20K, whatever it is. Now, when you're applying for a card, Chase is like, oh, like this guy's serious. He has cash flow. He has the ability to repay this card. He literally has 20K just sitting in the bank with us. Maybe we should give him some credit. This could be a good opportunity for us. So that's how they look at it. So those are the next steps, just like starting to build out that relationship. And then from there, that's when you start going into relationship managers and the VPs at the bank and stuff like that that can help you apply for that. But they have to see your intentionality and your commitment to building something serious with them, not just being there for a credit card.
All right. Everybody hates on banks because you're always getting declined and like, you know, and I know because I did it. Like, back in the day, you're 18, 19, trying to apply for stuff, and like, bam, decline, auto decline, right? Yeah. The reality is you didn't do it in the right order, right? So the bankers are going to be your top relationship that you can make when it comes to like starting and growing a business and having a good solid profile. Like, do you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. And the thing is that working with these bankers directly, if you're able to establish a relationship with them, that can make a world of a difference on how much you get approved for. The reason that my students are getting approved for hundreds of thousands of dollars is because they show up professional, like you're saying, they establish a real relationship with that banker, and if for some reason, when they're putting in their application and it doesn't get approved for as much as they thought it would, that banker is just one phone call away from the underwriting team. He can just make a call and be like, hey, you know, I know this guy, he's working on this and that, we've established a relationship, is there any way you could reconsider? And that one phone call can make all the difference for you.
Dude, I love that. So dude, don't discount. You know, a lot, you know, you do a lot of stuff online, I do too. We tend to forget that people are still behind stuff. They're behind the banks, they're behind the credit, they're behind like people have what you want and what you need. So don't forget that. Establish good relationships. All right. Yeah. So after that, like what's next from there?
Well, from there you should just start getting approvals rolling in. So let's say, for example, you're working with senior vice president at Bank of America, and they put in all your applications. From there, it's just a process of getting approved. So they have the ability to work with the underwriting team directly. Sometimes they'll submit it and have them review it personally. And then from there, they can also get your reconsideration. So let's say you were requesting 80K and they only came back with like 40. Well, the vice president, the senior vice president, can call them and be like, hey, could you please reconsider this? I know their credit profile. I know how they're operating their business. I understand how that's going. I have a relationship with them. I really need to get them some more credit. And so they're able to kind of get that resubmitted for you, re-reviewed, and you'll start getting these applications approved and credit lines increased. And so at that point, you should just be getting these applications approved, and you can start using that. So whatever way you plan to use it, a lot of people tend to use it for different investments, or perhaps for buying business equipment, or investing in education. That's all very, very important for your business. And one thing that I wanted to touch on is good debt versus bad debt. So what are we using that debt for? Debt, I have found, is not a word that has any meaning. Debt is neutral. It's not good or bad. We assign meaning to it. I can make debt good or I can make it bad. So I can use that debt to buy education that's going to improve my knowledge and my skill set and make me a more profitable businessman. Or I could go to the Gucci store and spend 10K on a new tracksuit. It might look cool, but it's going to be expensive, and now I'm paying interest on it too, after the 0% runs out. So that's bad debt. Good debt is something that brings you a return. So whether it's an investment or something that's cash flowing, we want to apply our debt to the right things, because that's what's going to make all the difference.
The other important thing before that is you don't want to do this stuff on your own. If there's somebody that's already done it and somebody that has a course or education or YouTube, whatever, right? Don't do stuff that you don't know. Don't get yourself in a situation where you're gonna like, oh, I got this, right? Because guess what? I used to do that all the time. Oh yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah. No big deal. Yeah, you figure it out, but how long did it take you? And how many mess ups along the way did you do that you could have been preventing, right? So the number one investment that you're gonna do, I always say, is gonna be investing in yourself and your education and your learning. I've spent probably $500,000 a year in my own education, just so that I could level up, guide my team, help them out, help my customers. And dude, it's been like the top thing that I would say that I invest in, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, real estate, whatever is your thing. Remember that invest in your education, get the stuff, buy the courses, whatever you got to do, all right? And then make sure that wherever you put your investment money in has a return to pay off them cards. Because remember, you don't want to show up to the banker and say, hey, by the way, what can we do? Because I can't pay. So for business credit, right? Set up your personal. I want to summarize, right? Set up your personal. Make sure you either have a good LLC or you set one up or buy one or whatever. Invest in your education. Set up a relationship with bankers and make sure you're doing the math when it comes to how much return you're getting on credit, right? So, all right, let's switch gears a little bit. So what if, all right, I got my credit, I got some money. Like, first of all, how do I get money from a card? And then what do I do with it?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that you could get access to that capital. There's certain strategies that people have in place to help you get that money off of cards. It really just depends on the end consumer, how they want to go about that. So I can't really say too much on that. But for them, it's just a matter of applying it to the right investment. So if they want to buy like maybe business equipment, maybe printing equipment, right? So they can use that credit to now buy that equipment. They know it's going to produce an income for them. And they could also spend it on education. So whether it's some sort of mentorship or maybe some sort of educational software, sales training, marketing training for their business, that's going to directly produce a return for them. So a lot of these people will just accept credit. They'll just send you an invoice and you can pay that with a credit card. Of course, everybody's different. So just depending on what exactly you're planning to invest that into, that's kind of going to dictate how you're getting the money off of the card.
Got it. So it links back to like, hey, what's your business plan, right? So
yeah.
And by that, guys, I mean, I don't want you to get like really in the weeds of, oh, now I gotta create a business plan and spend 6 months refining how it's gonna look, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about like, all right, what's your strategy, and can you explain it to somebody in 3 minutes?
And a lot of times, like you're saying, you do have to have some sort of business plan, but the bank won't ask you for a business plan. No. They're not going to be like, hey, show me your business plan, or I need to know your board of directors and this and that. A lot of times it's not that complicated. It's just a matter of like, hey, if they ask you, what are you planning to use these funds for? Or like, what's the purpose of this loan? Don't just say like, oh, things or business things, You want to have some sort of clear-cut answer where you're like, hey, I'm actually expanding my marketing team and I'm looking at hiring an employee and building out a top-of-funnel system that's bringing in new leads. And that's all. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And they're willing to give you the funds then. Don't just be answerless, but you don't have to have like a massive plan built out. And then, yeah, obviously executing on that plan. So whatever that strategy is, whether it's to get new business equipment, once you get that credit, don't get excited and spend it on a Lambo. Spend it on what you actually plan to spend it on, because that, at the end of the day, that's what's going to produce income for you. And it's going to create some sort of cash flow for you to be able to pay off those cards and then eventually get those limits bumped up, because a $50K card is fun, but a $200,000 card is even more fun. So
maybe tell me about the passive investment side. Like you're super big into that. You have a lot of knowledge. And what that means, guys, is different flows of income that support you while you're building your main thing. All right. Maybe tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of funny that, we're talking about not buying Lambos with credit. However, don't tell anyone, don't tell Victor, but we may or may not have done that. Yeah. But, and there's a big caveat, it's not just for fun, right? It's not like my Lambo, but we're using that credit to invest into this business equipment, which just happens to be a Lambo. And then we place that Lambo at a car rental lot. Right? So their entire business is just renting exotic cars. And they're renting these cars out for like $1,500 a day, sometimes $2,000 a day. And the monthly payment is maybe like $3,000 or $4,000, right? And we're putting 20, 30K down on these cars using credit sometimes. We buy these cars and then we place them in the rental lot and we're cash flowing. I've seen months, $15,000, $20,000, even $40,000 a month on these cars. And our investors aren't even operating it. It's the rental company that's operating this whole thing, and they're just charging a profit split to do that. So they have the whole system. It's a well-oiled machine. They've been doing it for years. They have the brand, the marketing, the operations. Everything is seamless, and we're just placing more equipment into their business. So just like if you buy a printing machine and you place it into your business, you don't really have to figure out how to use it. You already have a system in place. You already know what's going to happen when that printing machine comes. Same thing with Lambos, and so that's obviously not the only investment that we do. We have maybe 30 or 40 different things that we currently invest in, but anything from like oil wells, even we invest in oil wells down in Texas. Same thing, you just have a fractional ownership of an oil well. It's drilling oil, right? And then they're selling it to refineries. And so we make a percentage of all that profit. We're buying a jet right now.
Nice.
Basically jet charters. Same thing as the exotic car, it's just bigger. Right? So we have multiple investors coming in, buying this aircraft and then chartering it out on an hourly basis. And so we're the only company that's doing jet automation. And right now it's looking to do a really, really nice return for our investors this first year. And as we scale it, obviously we're going to get better with it. But again, it's a charter company running everything. I don't do any of the operations. They're operating the entire investment, and we're just getting paid out a percentage of the profits. Another really popular one is like Airbnbs. So we have Airbnb automation. We do some e-commerce stuff like Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon FBA. So a lot of really cool strategies, and especially with the way things have shifted, in the recent years due to some economic factors. So many things are moving online. So we have so many opportunities to make money online. And now all it comes down to is access. So again, access to credit or access to capital. And number two, access to these investment opportunities. And I've spent thousands of hours just developing relationships that would allow us access into these investment opportunities. Like, for example, some of the best operators for these investments, the oil wells, the e-commerce stores, the exotic car rentals, they don't offer it publicly. It's not a public program. You can't just see an ad somewhere and do it. No, I had to spend years developing these relationships, and now that I know the guy operating it, now that I've tried it myself, I can show somebody else how to do it. I can teach them how to do it, and a lot of times even get them the funding to do it.
What made you decide, all right, well, I'm gonna like focus on education and all that stuff and running the investment company versus like, oh, maybe I should run these rentals and run this and go do that and go do that. Like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think a big factor of how successful you can be is how deep you can go into a specific subject. So for me, if I'm focused on so many different things all at once, I'm not going to be able to go as deep into each one of them. And so I knew that if I wanted to become the best educator in passive income, let's say, I need to be focused all in on that. So yes, I could make more money if I rent out my own cars. I could make more money if I run my own Shopify store, my Amazon store, and my oil wells and all these different things, but that's going to distract from my main vision. My vision is to create 100 millionaires within the next 5 years. And so I use that like straight line as my vision, and anything that doesn't align with that, like running an oil well field, doesn't really align with my vision, doesn't get me further there. So, okay, I can't do that. And I use that as like a straight edge. And I'm like, okay, if this doesn't get me closer to this goal, I'm not gonna do it. So I really, really use that as like a guiding stick. I'm like, okay, this is the direction that I'm going. If whatever I'm planning or thinking of potentially doing doesn't get me closer there, I'm not even gonna focus on it. I'm not gonna waste my time doing that. If I really need it done, I could hire somebody to do it for me. For example, designing my website. I have no idea how to design websites. You know, I could easily hire somebody to do that for me, and that's gonna accelerate everything that's moving me towards my vision, right? So we have all these little side things that are necessary sometimes, but for me, it's a matter of, what if I just had a professional do it for me? Even like exotic car rentals, you know, this is these people's entire business. The only thing that they do is rent out exotic cars. Sure, I could learn it, but I'm not gonna dedicate 100% of my time to doing it just like they are. I could maybe give 10% of my time or 20% of my time. So what do you think that's going to do to my performance and customer service experience? It's going to go down. And so I could be significantly more profitable if I have somebody who's an expert at it, operating this whole investment for me. And for me, just splitting the profits with them, and I'll be more profitable that way.
Oh, I love that. I love it. So Austin, where can people like get a hold of you, find you, kind of connect with you for your stuff?
Yeah, so the easiest place is going to be my Instagram. So at Austin Zelan. That's going to be, it's kind of like my main hub for everything that I do. I use it as kind of like a landing page, you know. So some personal life stuff on there, but also all of the business things that I do usually just gets fed directly to my Instagram. So Instagram sees it first, and then it kind of gets filtered through to my website and stuff like that. So definitely Instagram. I post a lot about all the different projects that I'm working on, and you know, student success stories and stuff like that. So it's always helpful for people to see others winning and others succeeding with what they're doing.
Austin, one last thing. If you had a, you know, let's just say over my 17, 18 years, I've learned a lot through these failures, right? So if there's like something that I could give back to you, a question that you have, a help that you need, guidance, what would that be?
Yeah, so over the last 17 years, what do you feel like was the most important thing that really kept your business accelerating and growing? Was it something that you feel like you did in your personal life, maybe like discipline or like mindset training, or do you think it was like a business tool or access to something in the business world?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you start off, you kind of fumble a lot, right? And you're like working so hard, but because you don't have the knowledge, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're saying what's the one thing, is the investment in my education and mentors that have done it.
Yeah.
So if you guys have a goal and a vision, like you could search like who's done it, not who posts about it, not who's like who's done it and still doing it at high levels. So that's number one. That's been the number one thing for me, and then it helps me like coach a high performance team the same way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd say it's very similar for me as well. It's just finding out who's already achieved what I want to achieve and learning as much as I can from them, even if it's not like just one person. What I found is that it's usually multiple people, and it's not even copying them at all. You're not copying them. You're just learning certain aspects of how they run their business or their investments, and then you're piecing together your own strategy. So
exactly. So 100%. That's a great question. So, all right, guys, there you have it. Another bomb episode here with me, Victor, and my boy Austin, that made some time to be here. He's an incredibly busy guy, so make sure you follow him. Also, dude, about half of you guys are just like, you know, getting this free content, and then you're not subscribed. You don't do comments and all. So make sure you Come on, right? Dude, you know how much these lights cost in the studio? Come on. Subscribe, comment, like, hit the bell. Make sure you follow this guy. And we'll keep bringing winners, and we'll keep bringing content that makes you win also. So we'll see you on the next video. Peace out.